Hello team, welcome back to another Line War cast. This is your map today on the newly released version 36 of Line War, which includes the aircraft carrier and a ton of other quality of life improvements in the game, lobby improvements, the whole deal. If you'd like to learn more about what has happened in this latest patch, you can check out the Line War Discord or check out the releases in Steam or on the Line War website. Any of these. Our two players today in blue to Sobnerin and in red. Someone said that my nickname sucks. Both top players. We have an upcoming tournament from March 20th to 26th. Fairly certain that those are the dates that this is actually going to run. So a lot of exciting upcoming Line War content. Stay tuned for that. And we'll get into it shortly. Here we go. Sobnerin is taking this northern little island. Nickname is taking this southern little island to the left. I mean, this isn't bridged. So both players starting on an island. Navy will definitely come into play, and as I say that, Nickname puts down 3 docks immediately. And here come the first docks for Sobnerin. Open up 2 docks immediately. We'll see what the next pre-construction buildings are. Sobnerin is going to have these 2 gases on one territory, which will be very good to fuel this Navy. And Nickname is taking their first refinery already. And starting to cap the little island. Third dock for Sobnerin. So both players with pretty much the same build. The only difference, of course, being Nickname has a gas already and Sobnerin does not as of yet. And it's 3 destroyers for Nickname. And we've seen before in games how Nickname will use these destroyers quite effectively. Either as scouts or to start taking this water territory. Something that's changed in this new release is that there's actually more water territory on the map, these little squares, and land territory is worth less. So it kind of makes Navy a little bit more important. We've kind of seen Navy sidelined a little bit in some sense in Line War so far, at least recently in the meta. So look for that to change. Sobnerin is going for an airport and a barracks immediately. This would probably indicate to me that this is going to be some sort of commando drop off of this airport. We can kind of see the range of Sobnerin's airport if we press tab, and it can actually reach this bottom right island and this top right island. And an industry, a farm for Sobnerin. First transport boat's out for blue. Likely going to start going across to the southern island. These 3 destroyers, if Nickname sees it, we'll be able to cut it off. This is Nickname's vision at the moment. So the transport boat slowly coming into focus, or rather it was for a split second. Nickname reacts to it. And it's going to go cut it off. Sobnerin backs up, realizing that this is exactly what's happening. Great play from blue. And a 4th dock for Nickname on this side, which with all the infantry kind of standing around the dock, presumably we're going to see a transport boat come out of it to move some of those infantry across. 3v1 situation against this missile boat. The destroyers can take the missile boat by themselves. The transport boat is going to do like marginal damage here. So red is going to kill this first boat, but when the big cruiser shows up out of the dock, they're going to have to retreat. At least 3 destroyers aren't going to be able to take on 1 cruiser, which is the pound for pound champion of naval engagements. And it's never looked so good. Destroyers are going to be quicker though, so red's not going to have to lose any of them. Rather, like, they lost the first one, might not lose any other ones. But it'll be a very cheeky snipe on this transport boat if Nickname can pull it off, and that's exactly what happens. Totally wrong about this being commando drops. It's actually bombers with infantry, which is also a very fine play. It's going to potentially work out because this range that we just saw, all 4 of these docks and the gas for Nickname are within range of this bomber. And these bombers that show up out of this airport. We've kind of seen the meta so far shift a little bit in this release, in that there's a lot of interceptor bomber action. And we'll see if that keeps up in this game. It's 3 more cruisers for Sobnerin. So over time, Sobnerin's going to have a very strong naval presence. I mean, Nickname is kind of responding by going for 3 cruisers of their own. And really, Navy is going to be a big aspect to this game. And we've seen before how sometimes if you can control the water and you make sure that your opponent doesn't have any docks, you get these these gases in the water for free. You get great scouting because you can move your boats wherever you want. And with the advent of aircraft carriers in Land War now, it also means that your aircraft carriers can go wherever they want, get very close to your opponent's base. And it's an added reason why Navy is so important. Blue takes out 1 destroyer, 2 red cruisers are reinforcing. The Sovereign has a trade route up in the top left that will most certainly come into play as this game progresses. Trade routes are a great source of economy. If you can get them set up, you need both the towns and both the ports in order for the merchant ships to start going. And now with the defender's advantage, blue is going to be able to pull, or push, pardon me, red back. Nickname's got 2 more farms of their own. This is in fact a transport boat. It's actually 2 transport boats. So Nickname will be able to get a foothold on that right island. Bottom right, pardon me. And here comes the first bomber of the game. It's still bomber production out of the airport for Desobnerin, who has the first gas at this point. And we'll have to look for Desobnerin to get off this island. The trade route is going to be a lot of economy, but ultimately if blue allows red to take the rest of the map, they'll probably fall behind on eco a little bit. A destroyer now on the far right dock for Nickname, probably to start capping a bunch of these water territories. And we can check the eco real quick. 482 for Desobnerin, 494 for Nickname. So very close. The sound that we just heard is actually a second gas for Desobnerin on that same territory, which is expected. These boats are going to get into a huge fight. It's 4 blue cruisers against what is now 2 red cruisers, but more boats for red. And this is a very close fight, I think. Destroyers aren't that bad against other boats, but they're certainly not as strong as cruisers. The bombers are maybe tip this in blue's favor, and so red's going to just try to rip by here and potentially maybe snipe a dock, but in some sense red might lock these boats in here and they'll be destroyed, even if they are able to take out this one dock, which I'm not sure about. But as long as they waste enough time and blue doesn't then just push across to start destroying the docks, Nickname's not in huge trouble of like throwing the game by any means. So a lovely little chase in the water. At least some of the destroyers will get out. And when I say some, I clearly mean one, I guess. And Desobnerin's left with 5 cruisers, one of which is heavily damaged. If you leave your units to not move at all and they're idle, over time they will repair themselves, but it does take quite a long time. But right now, a big naval advantage for blue. Nickname is switched into cruisers here. In case blue starts to get aggressive. This is the Sovereign's view, so the docks have not been spotted yet. The refinery has been. And so potentially, these bombers are going to start looping around and try to attack this refinery. This is the commands that we can see that blue is running, and that's kind of what's happening, is that the bombers are trying to go around the Navy. They will get a scout at least if they get past that infantry, because they're kind of procking to them to try to attack them, since it's an attack move line. And these 2 missile boats and 1 destroyer are trying their best to get away from this Navy. A 4th dock on the way for blue. Nickname continues to develop the right-hand side, now has 2 destroyers, a 3rd one on the way. More industry going down, a barracks in the mountains. The bombers will be able to destroy it over time. And eco-wise, 552 for blue, 594 for red. And the first airport potentially for Nickname, it is right here on the right southernmost island in the south. And for nickname, I guess these two boats are really just gonna hang out here to cap or scout. Potentially we'll just park here and wait for this blue navy to move out, and then they'll run in to try to destroy some of these docks. But with 4 docks, De Sovereign is going to have ships that are just constantly kind of popping out, which will serve as the defense for these docks, these shipyards. Barracks for nickname doesn't fall quite yet. We'll see if De Sovereign decides to keep attacking it. And navies do take a lot of energy. So we can see that nickname's about to run out of it. We might hear a beep beep, which is the low energy warning. Nickname might just take this second refinery as quick as possible. And that being said, De Sovereign is also very low on gas because of this cruiser count. Cruisers take the highest energy amount when they're moving. And new to this version, when the units are fighting, they also, if they're an energy consuming unit, they will also spend energy while firing, even if they're not moving. They will continue to fire if you are out of gas or out of energy, but they will still consume energy. It's a little bit of a difference in how the game works. Nearly a full airport for blue at this point. De Sovereign is probably going to put down an airstrip at some point, because the airport will stop building bombers if it is full. And you can just see that De Sovereign really needs to get off this island in the top left, and that's what this transport boat is for. And with these boats kind of blocking this transport route, presumably De Sovereign is going to go across here and get aggressive with it. There's no real other good islands for De Sovereign to take. It would be infeasible for De Sovereign to try to get to the right-hand side of their own island to try to take the bottom right. We can see nickname is getting a second gas. And a transport plane, probably going to go commandos here to start doing commando drops onto De Sovereign's base. Third refinery now for blue, who's beginning to drop off these infantry. And there's no real unit. I mean, there's a barracks here for nickname, but there's no real units to defend this drop. So if De Sovereign can get a foothold here and put down a factory or any sort of production structures, it could become a problem for red. 6 cruisers and 2 destroyers maybe will start attacking here, but clearly blue has the naval advantage. And the bombers will start softening up these shipyards. And probably a little bit of a tense moment for red in this situation. Certainly if the bombers destroy this refinery, which they might, it'll be a big problem. When your units are out of gas, they'll have black plumes of smoke over them, and they'll take increased damage for the next 5 seconds. Infantry fight in the mountains and the forests. This will generally favor red because this is red controlled territory, so red's units don't move as slowly as blue. There is a nerf when you're moving through mountains and forests if you do not own the territory. And unfortunately for De Sovereign, this refinery didn't end up dying. Second barracks for nickname, who continues to go for industry in the bottom right, with 2 transport planes. A third is on the way. This could be a very big commando drop, presumably on this main island for De Sovereign. This is nickname's view, so that when you see the bombers go into the fog of war like this, nickname can kind of make a guesstimate sort of deal that the airport is somewhere around here for blue. And we got a little bit of a standoff. I think De Sovereign probably thought about going after these docks for a second. They're so damaged, they look like it's a very promising target. But at the same time, De Sovereign doesn't want to go in here, have these 3 cruisers show up, and then take a bad fight and lose the navy. So we actually a very great, like a good split to have some of these cruisers go down and try to kill some of the docks, but the rest of these boats kind of hang out to prevent Nickname from just rushing in and killing this gas in all 4 docks of blue. With the bombers, this is looking like a great fight for Desobnerin. And we'll just go big picture, because these are your 3 main battles. The infantry on the land. Blue clearly winning this fight on the docks. And still no anti-air for Nickname, so these bombers are doing a bunch of damage on the boats. Some capping in the north for Nickname to get all that navy, or all that naval territory. Another dock, so Nickname is just rebuilding these docks elsewhere. Which is a strong play. And with this continuous landing from Desobnerin, Blue still could get a foothold here, after wiping these 3 docks and the refinery. Beep beep, that is the low gas noise for Blue. Nickname rebuilding that refinery on the far right. So Nickname's gas, Nickname only has 30, Desobnerin has 90 because of how many refineries that Blue has. The blue boats are out of gas though, so they will take more damage, and more importantly, Nickname can maybe just run by these boats because they're going to struggle to keep up as long as Nickname has the gas to do so. Setting up this refinery is actually a relatively big deal for Desobnerin. Luckily, now that these 3 cruisers are back, they're going to at least be in the fight and destroy this entire Red Navy, even if this refinery does go down. This grouping of infantry is great to prevent what might be a big commando drop on that refinery. And it'll be very close, but Nickname is unable to take out that 4th refinery for Desobnerin. Here's that airstrip we were talking about earlier. It's just continued bomber production out of Blue. And eco-wise, 1,000 income for Red, 622 for Blue. So it's really all of this eco and this bottom right island that Nickname's been able to take. So unit-wise, Desobnerin's very ahead. But economically, this could get a little bit tricky just because of how much more money that Nickname is making. First town now for Desobnerin to offset some of that economic disadvantage, that deficit. So a great play. It's a relatively safe trade route if Desobnerin can set it up. And here comes 6 commandos. So this is Desoblerin's vision. Commandos have stealth. Buildings add to detection, and so do units. But it's going to be relatively close. Like, Nickname might just be able to overpower this infantry with these commandos, and then it's going to be difficult for Desobnerin to defend it because there's only 1 dock here. Or, pardon me, 1 barracks here, and there's no commandos and there's no interceptors. So slowly these commandos will drop out of view. And this will become very annoying for Blue to deal with. We just saw for a split second all those commandos are totally invisible. Helicopters now for Nickname. And a sub-pen, the foreign shore construction. If you have Line War and you check out the tutorials that were released as part of this last update, there's a section, there's a video on this. If you control the water territory that borders your opponent's land territory, or neutral territory for that matter, you can in fact build shipyards and submarines on that shoreline. 1 refinery goes down. We'll see if the second one does. Desobnerin smartly just builds this refinery again and takes another one. It's such a energy heavy game with all this navy. And I think both players recognize that energy security is important. So Desobnerin has been able to land a little bit here. 2nd barracks for Nickname. to make sure that this stays red territory. It would be maybe not a game ending, but it certainly would change the econ situation if blue was able to start taking this bottom island. Nickname's now about 300 income ahead of Desobnerin. And we'll see if Desobnerin is able to scout this, because right now you can see the power of it. Although this is all blue territory, or blue controlled territory, there's no vision to detect the subpen, which actually has some stealth attached to it, by virtue of it being a submarine pen. 3 helicopters now for red. They'll be very strong against these cruisers. There's only 1 missile boat for blue, which will start working on these helicopters. And these 2 transport boats have been exposed. They're heading over to this side, probably start ferrying infantry across. And another commando drop onto the airport that Nickname has now scouted. Desobnerin still doesn't see the subpen. This is the strength of invisibility of units, or of buildings, pardon me. So it's what we call a BBD, a Big Basantos drop, or a Basantos base drop, whatever one you prefer, when you take multiple transport planes and you try to drop them on a high value target. But the bombers were launched at a perfect time for blue, so commandos aren't able to snipe that. Those 6 commandos wouldn't have been able to kill that airport very quickly had they not been spotted. Great separation from Nickname to just take out a cruiser and a destroyer from the main navy and try to snipe a gas. And this is the power of helicopters. When they hover over their target, they do a bunch of damage. That one helicopter softens up this cruiser quite nicely. And at this point, Desobnerin does spot the submarine pen, which is a great pickup for blue, who has the first town completed of this trade route. Second town is nearly complete, so just 2 more ports are required to start moving along that trade route with the merchant ships. A trade route generates as much capital as a city does if you were to take, you know, all these industry and build your town and then upgrade it to a city. So it is quite a bit of money. And in this new release, we've seen that eco is and building eco sites, industries, towns, ports, cities. It's more pronounced than it has been historically in Line War. At least that's how I've felt while playing the game. This is 6 cruisers against 1 cruiser, but with 4 helicopters for red. It's an open question whether this dock falls. It probably will if the Sovereign decides to attack it and just focus it. Second town is done. We can check the income. 777 for blue, 974 for red. So Nickname's economy hasn't really grown all that much, and Desobnerin is slowly starting to catch up. Not even sure where these 4 cruisers came from for Nickname, but they're going to be able to destroy this refinery at this point. And the answer is in these 4 docks on the left. So that's where Nickname invested a bunch of money. And this might catch Desobnerin off guard, because I certainly wasn't expecting this. And now there's only a missile boat and a destroyer at home. There's 2 cruisers in production, but there's still going to be potentially a while until they complete. I say as this one pops out immediately. And this one does as well, shows what I know. First port is done for Desobnerin. And great bomber play from blue. On this airport and refinery, with this many bombers, the airport might just actually fall in this very first pass. Black plumes of smoke on the transport ships on the airport shows that Nickname is actually out of gas. The airport is in fact destroyed, so is the refinery, all these buildings, so this is a very successful bombing raid from Desobnerin. Town now for blue. 994 income for red, 822 for blue. Desobrein's making great strides to get back in this game. This is the refinery the nickname has to take. And Red started building some more industry down here, 3 barracks and 1 factory. The artillery will make sure that it'll be very difficult for the Sovereign to land here again. The bombers could do a great job if they are sent here, but at the moment they're going to have to deal with these 4 cruisers. They're certainly going to be able to destroy a refinery, and likely another dock with it. More industry for the Sovereign, who has nearly completed this first port. Once the second port is done, a transport boat will show up and start making a bunch of money as it traverses this trade route between the 2 ports. Luckily for Nickname, they have boats in the north. So at the very least, Nickname is going to be able to scout that this trade route is going up. And then adjust accordingly. Nickname rebuilds this airport. It's such a strong position to have an airport because we've seen how effective those commando drops were. So Nickname probably wants to just get that going again. That refinery for Red is certainly in trouble because that cruiser is in a great location. With how many boats have shown up here, at this point Blue very likely knows that there has to be docks down here. The vision for the Sovereign obviously shows that the docks haven't been spotted, but it's not like 7 cruisers just magically appear. And importantly for the Sovereign, the bomber numbers haven't dropped really at all. They haven't been destroyed yet. There's no SAMs or interceptors or missile boats on the field for Red. So they just continue to get tremendous value. The bombers got a higher cruise speed in this patch, and then you see them deploy their wings in more of like a bombing pattern when they get close. And with this many bombers, I think it's gonna be a very close fight, but I think it's gonna kind of be a wash. These are the lines here for both players to give an idea. So the directive here for Blue is to send the bombers kind of around this navy, which is good. They'll get a first volley off at these boats and then continue on to do some more damage. Another dock for Nickname. This town in the north is almost being destroyed, so there goes the idea to get a trade route, at least at this point, super quickly, for the Sovereign. Which is a setback. So instead, the Sovereign is going to go for this city here. Which it could be attacked from the shore from these boats. But I think it's closer to home. Blue will be able to defend it better. 861 income for the Sovereign, 1036 for Nickname. Who is going for more commando drops out of this airport. So a little bit of a reset in the tempo of this game. And if we go to the top-down view, we can kind of see where both players have capped at this point. The whole south belongs to Nickname with some of the Navy territories. And the Sovereign is still kind of contained on this top left island. There's still a lot of eco-development for Blue. Rather, I guess it's just this town and port is all that's left. So it might become important for the Sovereign to start expanding somehow. It'll be tough to do. But otherwise, I don't even know who has more economy. I mean, there's 3 cities in the south for Nickname that could be developed. There's only 1 in a trade route in the north for the Sovereign. So that would lean more towards Red having the eco advantage, and then I think Nickname just has more land territory in general. This little navy is cleaned up from the Sobnerin. Boats are starting to work along this coast. Artillery does relatively decent against cruisers. Really, cruisers are the only boat that can take on these artillery pieces. The missile boat and the destroyer wouldn't be able to if they stayed here long enough. And now the Sobnerin's cleared out this navy in the north, rebuilding this town to start on that trade route. And we can hear Nickname going for more industry. This lumber camp in town in the bottom right, and beginning to go across with these transport boats. And at this point has 2 transport planes ready to go. Great drop from the Sobnerin, who may be able to find this airport. It will be stealthed because it's in the mountains. It'll take 50% longer to build because it's in the mountains, but it will also have that stealth advantage. That is the trade-off. City completes now for the Sobnerin because those cranes went down. And by virtue of having 4 docks down here, there's been enough navy pooled that this attack will be thwarted, is your $5 word we're using. Bombers head to the right side to start taking out some of these boats. And a dock in the back for the Sobnerin to cap these 2 things. And then just, in general, contribute to Navy production. And here's your first look. Well, there was one in the last game we casted in this series. But here's an aircraft carrier. It looks great. It's going to be spotted by all these bombers. It could actually be taken out by all these bombers. It's just super unfortunate timing for this aircraft carrier. So the only things that can go on this aircraft carrier are helicopters, strikers, and interceptors. 3 planes in total can be on the aircraft carrier. So the plan for Nickname probably is to get these helicopters on deck here. And then start getting close with the Navy and picking away at a bunch of the targets. Here comes another airport for Nickname, who probably assumes that that airport is going to be destroyed. It's in the mountains in the bottom left. A depot has been hooked up for the Sobnerin to start collecting all this energy from these 3 refineries. And the town in the north is finished. 1124 income for Nickname, 996 for the Sobnerin. Then the transport planes were able to get off the ground, but they have nowhere to go when they land. I'm not sure if they'll go here. They might. This airport might be in range, and I think that's exactly what's happening. If there's nowhere for those transport planes to land, then they would just explode in midair. So it's an added bonus when you snipe your opponent's airport, that if they have any airplanes that are going out for a run, if there's nowhere for them to land, they will just explode. So you effectively destroy their airplanes as well, even if they're off the ground. 2 more refineries and another airport, or aircraft carrier, pardon me, finishes for Nickname. And a barracks. This close for the Sobnerin, and this could be a very strong play. If the Sobnerin could get kind of stuck in here in this natural choke, not only can they start capping everything, but destroy all this industry and potentially launch an attack. Nickname is starting to build interceptors, and interceptors are great against the bombers. But the Sobnerin might be able to do a bunch of damage before any of them can get in the air. Here come the transport planes for Nickname, probably going to go for a drop again. Onto Sobnerin's main base. And will this last bomber destroy this airport? Not yet, but these, as they circle, they're definitely going to destroy this airport. It's just so much damage that these bombers are doing. So this is the play. Great defense from blue to have all these infantry here to handle these commandos. And somehow Nickname has another cruiser up top to make sure that this transport, or this what are we even calling this, trade route, doesn't get up. And actually snipes a gas on the left-hand side as well. This is a very close game, I think, at this point. Because of the success of De Sovereign to actually get here. If the bombers can come back once more and destroy this red army moving through the mountains and keep all these barracks alive, it could be the like a turning point in this game. 981 income for blue and 1183 for Nickname. So Nickname's still with a relatively large economic lead. Destroys another refinery. One commando is left. I doubt that it's going to be able to destroy either of these refineries or even get away in general. And 5 helicopters on 2 aircraft carriers are beginning to move towards De Sovereign's base. So these aircraft carriers will have the same range. I can't click on them or see the range, but it's the same as if they're in airports. So the helicopters, you can see how far the helicopters, which is this kind of green line from De Sovereign's airstrips and airports. This is generally the distance. So these helicopters could probably start reaching the shore at this point. Very sneaky commando. It's not going to be able to destroy that farm. De Sovereign does defend this part of the trade route, is starting to build enough boats in the north to stop this snipe again, is rebuilding this town. This is a huge naval fight. There's 5 missile boats in the back. So that now Nickname can start killing these bombers. Missile boats can't actually shoot machine guns at the bombers. They're too high in the sky, but they're still better than having nothing here. But this is just the power of the cruiser bomber combination. And this red navy gets wiped. This is a big moment. So if Nickname can start destroying all the gas for blue, then it doesn't really matter how many bombers and cruisers that De Sovereign has, because they're not going to be able to move. And this is very successful. This is the role of an aircraft carrier. And this will turn into a little bit of a problem for De Sovereign. It'll be interesting to see if De Sovereign starts to switch to interceptors or just tries to send some navy out to destroy these aircraft carriers. But Nickname's starting to get a little bit of a navy set up on the right-hand side. More cruisers getting into the fight. And another airport goes down. These 3 barracks that De Sovereign have built are at risk. So we'll see if the bombers decide to go down here next, or if they go out towards these aircraft carriers, or even somewhere else, really. And this is really bad, because we look at De Sovereign's gas, and this is going to be very debilitating. Or blue. It's great play from these helicopters. And it's in perfect timing because these bombers were heading out to try to destroy these aircraft carriers. And now the pace kind of shifts. And I think the advantage now goes to Nickname. De Sovereign is going to have to wait for these refineries to show up at this point. There's 2 on the way on the left side of the map. But in the meantime, Nickname is going to be able to move up with these cruisers and this navy and start destroying all these docks and refineries, because none of these blue boats can move. Whereas Nickname has some energy security. Yeah, like Disarmament is so desperate for energy since these are no longer safe that this has to be the refinery that they build. And these helicopters over time are going to be able to destroy, I mean, these airports, potentially these airstrips. The game really clearly illustrates the power of the aircraft carrier in certain situations. I mean, like most units in line war, which is part of the beauty of it, it's always situation dependent, map dependent, terrain dependent, the whole deal. But this is so far, I mean, almost paid for itself. This one cruiser could destroy all 3 of these aircraft carriers, so it's important to send them with an escort. One cruiser is going to be enough to go against this blue cruiser. Nickname gets one of the docks, is going to re-snipe this refinery on the far left side. And this is a very difficult position, I think, for the submarine at this point. Maybe one of these aircraft carriers will go down. Now that the submarine has the gas, the bombers can get into play. I mean, it seems like one of the best ways to destroy aircraft carriers is if they aren't escorted by missile ships, is just to send bombers at them. But blue is still low on gas. This is not a comfortable energy situation. With these more barracks that Nickname put down here, they're at least going to be able to match the production of the submarine on this little island. Great play from blue to destroy these docks, which will reset the navy account for red. Factory now for the submarine. Potentially could be building artillery along the coasts to protect from these boats, or even just SAMs to deal with these helicopters. We'll see what it is. We can hear Nickname puts down more factories somewhere. And maybe I'm just not seeing... No, it's right here. 2 factories and another barracks. Because I think Nickname wants to make sure that they don't get knocked off that southern island. And now we'll see that these bombers, when they're done this run, they'll have nowhere to land. Because there's only 5 spots on this airstrip, and there's no other airports or airstrips for them to land at. So hopefully for the sovereign stake, these bombers will destroy at least one of the aircraft carriers. These 2 bombers that land in the water because they had nowhere to land on land, and so they just destroy themselves. And luckily for blue, the 2 aircraft carriers are destroyed. But I think they served their purpose with just how much Nickname was able to disrupt the energy for the submarine. More barracks for blue here. Over time, Nickname is going to be able to clear this because there's going to be a bunch of artillery that show up out of these factories. And these commandos are going to go nowhere. 1247 income for red. 973 for blue. Nickname destroys this town and port again. Which is super painful. If you're the submarine. As a little bit of a consolation. The submarine's going to snipe this industry. And this refinery likely could be destroyed from the submarine. I'm not sure if it's actually close enough, though. This will be huge pain if this one commando can destroy this city. And Nickname's now reached the far right of the map in the north there. Rebuilding an aircraft carrier. More transport planes on the way for what is going to be an enormous commando drop. An overwhelming amount of commandos. And this is good that the Sovereigns wedge themselves in this island. It's really just the question of energy. If the Sovereign... I mean, the Sovereign only has 5 more bombers at this point, but that's enough to at least occupy this much production and units from Nickname so that they can't just rush over to this production for the Sovereign. Sovereign's got 5 barracks, so over time, and as we see, Blue is starting to win this fight and push to the left. This refinery is actually close enough to the cruisers to start destroying it. Standoff in the north. Disarmament protecting that port, which is very important. And here come the commandos. 6 commandos are about to drop out of these planes. Strikers at the moment for Nickname out of this airport. And 2 barracks on the top right. This is going to be a landing from Nickname. I don't really know what else it would be. With the cruiser advantage, Nickname's going to try to take this fight against this navy and will likely win it and then be able to push this port and town. Good response time for DeSovereign to move all these infantry up to try to defend against these commandos. And it would be a pretty good play if Nickname just drops the next commandos on this airport. We'll see what the plan is. Because there's going to be nothing left at home. When I say home, I mean like this part of DeSovereign's base. So another barracks on the way for DeSovereign. Unfortunately, it's going to go up against these 2 factories. There's now a decent number of artillery pieces that are moving in for red. That's kind of an interesting situation. Does someone just keep like pushing to the left or try to buy enough time here? Over time with all that artillery, red is going to be able to beat that blue infantry army. It's not like super rock, paper, scissors in line war, but artillery definitely does very well against infantry as long as they're being body blocked and the infantry isn't directly on top of the big guns. Relatively desperate situation now for DeSovereign in the north to keep this town and port alive. The bombers may go up there next. A Nickname begins to widen the economic lead in the game, up by nearly 400, or whatever the math is on that. 1349 for red and 971 for blue. Nickname can still develop this city, or rather this city. These little roads lead to the town that is the city, and then this port. This city location. And then rebuilding all this industry and retaking that city. Over time, Nickname's going to take this out, and we'll confirm that with the 8 commandos that are going to drop with those parachutes. So the Sovereign does keep that town alive, which is huge. It was nearly gonna fall. And again, to show the power of the commandos, some of these commandos are actually still invisible. Beep beep is blue nearly running out of gas. The bombers aren't going to be able to help in this navy fight, and these cruisers are outnumbered. Nickname's starting to rebuild docks on the left-hand side. Squeezing this base from three angles. And has 2 more aircraft carriers that have popped out. And this is just super annoying. I mean, the Sovereign can't see these unless you are hovering over the map and hearing it, or see the explosion. It's very difficult to detect that commandos are around you. This port is going up for Disarmament, which is a big deal. But unfortunately, I think if Blue can't get off this island, even with the port and this city, Nickname's just going to be able to, over time, develop way more. And this landing is going to complicate things a lot for Blue, because this is going to be a decent amount of infantry and commandos that start getting ferried across in the north. If we go top-down view, we kind of see the reset to what was earlier in the game. Nickname's now taking the top right. Nearly has regained control entirely of the bottom. And now Disarmamen's kind of stuck on 2 refineries. The money isn't that high with how many units are on the map. The upkeep makes it so that Blue can't really afford more refineries. And this is an extremely tough position to be in. Nickname's transferring 3 strikers over to these aircraft carriers. That's what these strikers are being built for. More commandos on the way to do another commando drop. And as long as Nickname pins these boats at home and denies this trade route, it's already a tough situation for Blue to be in. It'll be an even tougher situation. The line, you know, lights up like this because it's now completed, so there's going to be merchant ships that are starting to be built just in time for this destroyer and 3 cruisers potentially to show up here. And more strikers are getting transported to the aircraft carriers. If we look at Nickname's range, the aircraft carriers can really just park themselves here and then be able to hit anything, really, into Sovereign's base. The bombers are looking for boats, because the Sovereign knows that this is important. Unfortunately, they're already up in the north here. Yeah, this is exactly the route. Which is a really good call, to make sure that these boats don't get up here. Unfortunately, it's just the timing was a little bit off. 1,000 income now for Blue, 1,391 for Red. It's even just the number, like, it's a big enough amount of boats that they probably would have got up here anyway. At least, like, 1 or 2 of them. And Nickname sends these transport planes back. Must have seen all these SAMs and how many units were here and just decided to dip. Okay, great cleanup for Disarmament, only actually losing a refinery. 2 more docks, both going destroyers, to try to interrupt this trade route. Here's the merchant ship. Coolest unit in Line War. It's not even close. And more industry for Nickname, who will likely start working on this town relatively soon. Strikers are going in to try to destroy this refinery. They're probably just targeted right on it. And they in fact are. They're not going to stop to try to destroy this SAM. They're just going to circle and destroy this refinery. Which will again just handicap the Sovereign's ability to move these cruisers and bombers around. And an added bonus to these aircraft carriers is even if your airport could reach what you're trying to hit, if the strikers don't have to go all the way home, then they can get in the fight again much quicker. And the skill ceiling in Line War, since it's, you know, this is top quality RTS, there's so much you can do with the micro to point the aircraft and the aircraft carriers in such a way that landing times actually become less for the strikers, so you can get them off the boat even quicker. They're the only launching platform for aircraft. I'm including airports and airstrips. I'm calling them launching platforms that you can actually change the direction that the aircraft take off in. You'll notice that all the airports are faced the same direction, kind of to the northwest. That is not the same for aircraft carriers. Destauberner continues to get great values out of these bombers. But unfortunately, I think this town sniper really seals the deal. The merchant ships will stop moving. They'll stop creating enough income for blue. And now it's 1,500 income for red. And 900 for blue. We'll begin to start losing some of these territories on the main island. And really just one heck of a game. Bombers might be able to destroy another refinery. I don't think it's going to matter as much, though. Nickname... Well, I mean, Nickname doesn't actually have a lot of gas. You can see the importance of energy in this game. Both players were trying to attack the opponent's gas and make sure that... It really keeps your opponent on their back foot if they're building energy units and you just keep destroying the energy that powers those units. Because all of a sudden they have a great army, and then in an instant it's really useless. Since it can't move. Nickname has the capital just to rebuild these refineries. And starting to work on this city, we can see with the crane. Yeah, Disarmament is building the eco, which is really important. But Nickname's done such a great job in the game to contain Disarmament on this island, and then make sure that this trade route didn't get up early in the game. And really, that's this helicopter snipes from the aircraft carrier that I think put Disarmament on the back foot a lot after that moment. Cruisers will destroy another town. And if you attack the town and the town is destroyed, then the port is destroyed automatically. So if you're, as you're playing, if you want to, you know, target the town instead of the port, you kind of get 2 for 1 as long as you can destroy that town. Here comes the second city from Nickname. Has already developed this town on the right-hand side. Both players are very low on gas, you can see in the top right corner. Nickname has a reserve of it, but... I mean, these planes were smoking for a second. This is so many commandos. All ready to go. Here, in fact, free cam. Whoa. Whoa. Yeah, where are they? Here they are. How do I even move this? Oh yeah, this is it. I'd say cheese. Oh, tooltip. There we go. Like I said, March 20th to 26th is the next Line War tournament. There's going to be a ladder reset as well. The next update that's been released, or rather the plans, if anyone is interested, is single player content, scriptable missions. I'm not going to try to paraphrase it because I'll get it wrong, but you can check out the Line War Discord for more information if you're interested to know what the roadmap is like. And otherwise, just check out the Limeware Discord in general. Look for games. Chat with folks. There's always lively debates going on. And this is just going to be more strikers and more aircraft carriers for a nickname. Here comes another huge drop of what is going to be 10 commandos. Also new to this release is that when the aircraft are shot down, they don't just explode now. They actually crash. Looks phenomenal. So it's a great release. Great update, folks. I'll make sure to tell Studio Centurion and Discord that they did a great job. And I think that's pretty much game. And this is what the end of the map is going to look like. Well played from both players. I mean, it's an hour-long game, so the stamina really comes into play here, so props to both. Some graphs. Folks, I hope you enjoyed it. Have a wonderful night, day, evening, whatever it is. See you around. Peace.